Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Department of Geriatric Medicine Ground Rounds. Um, Before I introduce today's speaker, I'm Dr. Karen Lubomir. I'm filling in for Dr. Masaki, who's on well-deserved leave. But before I introduce our speaker, I have some housekeeping that needs to be attended to. This CME activity is jointly provided by the Queen's Medical Center and the UH Jabson Department of Geriatric Medicine. As a reminder, evaluations are required for CMEs. You can find evaluations by following the link in the chat at the end of this talk, or in our email advertisement, or on our website. Your comments are very important to the planning committee and will be used to plan future programs. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Kurt Hasegawa is a retired investigator with the state of Hawaii. His 30-year career included investigations ranging from consumer protection to child support enforcement to securities fraud. His last 22 years with the Security Commissioner's Office were focused on both state-level civil cases as well as joint criminal cases with the FBI, IRS, and the Honolulu Police Department Financial Crimes Division. Also, in his last 10 years, he provided public outreach to local communities and organizations where he gave talks on fraud prevention. He has been a certified fraud examiner, CFE, since 2001 and currently maintains a CFE designation as a retired investigator. Please join me in welcoming Kurt Hasegawa.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here today. I'm happy to be representing the AARP's Fraud Watch Network. Thank you all for making time out of your busy schedules to be here today to talk about this important topic, which I think affects everybody. My great boss, Jackie Boland, is going to be assisting me. She's our Community Outreach Director for the AARP Hawaii, and she's helping me with my PowerPoint show. So as you know, today we're going to talk about fraud. My goal is to cover very basically what types of fraud are out there, the scope of the fraud, how we react to fraud, and most important, I want to leave you today with some tips on how to not be a victim. Because as you know, fraud affects millions of people around the country, around the globe, and the financial impact of fraud on families and on the victims are both emotionally and financially devastating, especially when they're older. So it's a very important topic. I have a lot to cover. I'm going to kind of breeze through it. I think there's going to be a Q&A session at the end. So, and I think you can send your messages or questions into the chat box. And again, as Karen had mentioned, my background is in investigations. Spent 30 years doing it. I enjoyed it. It was always very interesting. And I would have to say that what's most striking to me is that fraud really hasn't changed. It's actually gotten more prevalent, and losses are getting larger in all types of cases. And I'm still a certified fraud examiner with the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners based in Austin, Texas. So I'm one of around 90,000 anti-fraud fraud professionals that are trying to fight crime around the globe in various capacities. I was doing it full-time as an investigator, and now my goal is basically to help people understand how a fraud works and what to watch for and how not to be victimized. So I'm hoping that you guys will gain something from this today. And again, I'll open up the questions at the end. But we'll start off with the first slide. I'm going to be talking about these various topics, trends in fraud, scope, how much money is lost to fraud annually, and then how we react to fraud, and hopefully some helpful prevention strategies that you could use, and then also resources that you could turn to should you become a victim of fraud. Next slide. So we're going to talk about trends in scams and fraud. At this point, normally, if I'm talking to a live audience in person, and I'd ask for a show of hands as to how many people have been either approached with a fraudulent scheme or maybe victimized. So I'm going to start off because it's hard to do it online, but I'll tell you that I've been a victim of identity fraud twice. And this happened to me both when I was still an investigator with the state. And it occurred not through online media. So it was basically in person where somebody took my credit card information and then took some trips on it, paid some phone bills, that kind of thing. But it's not fun to be a victim of any kind of fraud, but especially ID theft because of all the things you need to do to correct that. Next slide. So we're going to be talking about really fraud and its impact on older adults, but I also want to stress that fraud today affects everybody. Next slide. So before we start, I just wanted to give you a general overview of what fraud actually is. And if you look on the right half of the screen, fraud is basically an intent to deceive somebody for monetary gain. Sometimes we call it stranger danger, where you meet somebody for the first time and next thing you know, they're taking your money. But it can also happen to you with somebody that you've known, maybe someone you've met or befriended on a social media platform. You got to know them, you develop a rapport with them, and then 6 months later, they're trying to get you into some kind of cryptocurrency scam. So it can be sometimes somebody that you actually know or maybe even trust. Next slide. So today we're going to touch on these key scams that you've probably heard of before in the media, in the news, imposter scams, romance scams, lottery scams, and of course, identity fraud. Next slide. So when it comes to the scope of fraud, a lot of times people think that fraud really affects the older population. And in reality, fraud actually affects a lot of the younger adults. And more younger people lose money to fraud more often than the older population, which may seem like a good thing, but then when we look at the older victims, they lose a lot more money. And when I was an investigator with the state of Hawaii working with securities fraud, a lot of our victims locally would write a check for like $250,000. They'd cash out their variable annuity and gives this crook a $250,000 check because they were so taken by their little scheme. And they're never going to get their money back because they're already retired. There's no way to make that money back. So the effects on older people are much more devastating. But just keep in mind that it does affect a lot of younger people too. Next slide. So the scope of fraud is very, very large. It's billions of dollars every year. And if you look at this chart on the right side, the blue chart, from 2019, the losses were estimated by the Federal Trade Commission to be around 2.4 billion. By 2022, it was 8.8 billion. And if you look on the left, the Federal Trade Commission reported 10.3 billion in 2023 and then 12.5 in 2024. These are huge losses. That's like a 500% increase since 2019, which seems crazy. But if you look at the FBI's stats right below it, the IC3, which is the Internet Crime Complaint Center, which is run by the FBI to track cyber crime, they reported 12.5 billion in 2023 and another 16 billion in 2024, which is even more crazy. But what's probably the most scary part of these stats is that most fraud goes unreported because most victims are usually embarrassed. Sometimes they feel stupid and they have maybe friends or family saying, "How could you fall for that scheme?" So they don't want to report it because there's a shame factor. So the stats that you see here are actually a very small portion of what's really, really happening out there. And it's crazy. It's crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if in 2025 that those numbers go to 18 or even 20 billion. And this is a trend that's not gonna go backwards anytime soon. Um, in 2024, the most common methods used by these crooks to reach victims was first via email. Email was a very, very big method for them. Telephone was second, followed by text messages. And if you're like me, I get emails just about every day. There's at least one scam email in my spam folder every single day. Uh, I get text messages every so often. I don't get too many phone calls, or actually the phone calls do come in, but my spam blocker on my phone will, send it to voicemail, so I don't actually really see it. But text messages, email, telephone, these are the main methods used today. Next slide. So now we're going to kind of go over some of the top scams. You've probably heard of these. Imposter scams. Imposter scams is one of the large problems that we see. And essentially, an imposter scam is just what it sounds like. It's somebody pretending to be somebody else. And in these examples here, there's a lot of government type scams where they pose as Social Security employees or IRS. When it's tax season, you might get a text message or a phone call from someone claiming to be with the IRS saying that your social security number has been compromised. You need to call this number or do this or that. We also get a lot of business type imposter scams, including Amazon scams, FedEx scams. During the Christmas season, if you're like me and order a lot of merchandise through Amazon, I was getting a bunch of text messages claiming to be from the US Postal Service. And the text message contained a logo that looked just like the USPS logo. And it would say that my package is delayed at the warehouse and to call this number right away. And that is a scam, okay? Because these entities, we can go to the next slide. The real businesses and the real government entities are never going to contact you to say that, hey, I think your package has been lost. You're basically going to have to figure it out on your own. If you were to call, this is how the scenario would go. If you called, say, the UPS based on a text message you got, and you call the number in that link, they're going to say, UPS, how can I help you? US Postal Service, how can I help you? You're going to say, oh, I just got a text message saying that my package is stuck somewhere at your warehouse. And then they're going to go through a similar round of questions, which would make a lot of sense to you. And this is called social engineering. And this is their way of getting you to trust them in a very short time. So they're going to ask you, what is your name? You're going to give them your name. What is the address? And then you give them your address. They're going to say, what is your billing address? Is that where the package was supposed to go? Yes. Did you use a credit card? Then you're going to say yes. And by then, you're eating right out of their hand, right? They got you already. And then the next question is going to be, which credit card did you use? And you're going to say a Visa. And then they're going to say, can you confirm the credit card number for me? I need to make sure that it matches your billing zip code. And then you're going to give them the credit card number and they're going to say, could you read me the 3-digit CVV code, which you will give them. And then they're going to say, we're going to look into this and get back to you. And then they're going to hang up. And that's going to be it. Now they have everything they need. They have your name, your address, your billing zip code, and your whole credit card number. And then they're going to start using your card right after that. How quick these scams go. And I want to share a quick story. A friend of mine was vacationing. She lives here in Mililani, was vacationing in Disneyland with her family. And this is about maybe 8 years ago. And while at Disneyland, she got a text message claiming to be from Amazon Security, saying, this is Amazon Security. Your Prime account has been compromised. Call this number immediately. So here she is walking around Disneyland with her family, and she panicked. Okay, so remember this because this is what the scams are going to try to do, make you panic and you're going to have a feeling that you need to act on this right away. So she panicked and she called that number that they texted her on. And they said the same thing, similar to the US Postal Service scam. What is your name? You have an Amazon account. Yes. What is the billing zip code? What is your address? And then they asked her, do you have your Prime Visa card on you? And so she checked and she said, yes, I do. So they said, could you please read me the number so I can confirm that this is you? Gave them the number, same thing. What is the 3-digit code on the back? Read them the code. And then they said, we're going to investigate this and get back to you. And they hung up. And then in the next minute, a little voice inside her head said, wait, this doesn't sound right. So who does she call? She calls me. She calls me from California. I'm at my office, at my desk, and she tells me, I think I've been scammed. And so I asked her what happened, and she said I was contacted by Amazon, and I already immediately knew something was wrong. And she said I gave them my credit card info. and I told her, you need to call Amazon directly. So I told her to call the number on the back of her credit card, on the actual card, which is the legitimate Amazon security, and report it. And she did that. And this happened within maybe 25 minutes of that initial call. In that 25 minutes, Amazon security told her that her card had been charged several times in Spain, just in that half an hour. So that's how fast these scams work. And that's how sophisticated the social engineering is, and how they operate. So again, no legitimate business or a company is going to call you. If you do use Amazon a lot, like say I do, and if I were to get an Amazon text that said something's wrong with my order, or maybe even an email from Amazon or maybe PayPal, and you're thinking, well, I do have an order that I'm waiting for. What you need to do is do not click on the links in that email, and do not call the number provided in that email. You need to go into your actual account, log in, and then go through that legitimate contact and find out if something is wrong. And most of the time, they're going to tell you there's nothing wrong with your account. That's a scam. And hopefully you will not have given any credit card information. So again, if you do go down that route and you find out that, oh my gosh, Kurt said not to call these people, but I just called this number. Always remember, do not make any payments. Don't share your personal identifiable information, and do not give out your credit card information. Always trust your instincts. I always tell people that everyone has a little voice inside their head that says, this doesn't sound right. If you think that while you're talking to this person, or looking at an email, or looking at a text, you're probably right, and you need to just cancel right there. Delete the email or hang up the phone. Next slide. Online romance scams. I know our slide says romance scams, but I like to call it relationship scams, because this can happen anywhere. It could be on a dating site, could be on a gaming site, could be on a social media site, Facebook, could be on Instagram, anywhere you or to meet somebody or interact with somebody for the first time. A lot of people use social media, as you know. Red flags to look for is when you maybe meet somebody that you don't know, but somehow you quickly establish a rapport. Maybe you have similar interests. You all like dogs, or you like to go fishing, or you like to travel, go to Vegas or something like that. You establish some common ground, and then suddenly they want to move you off their platform. That's already one of the red flags. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a scam, but it is one thing to be aware of, because what they're doing is taking you out of the platform. So like say if you're on Facebook, Facebook cannot monitor now your messaging between each other. Now you're outside. So if you call them directly on their phone, it's just you and that scammer. Just there. So you have to just rely on your own wits and your own knowledge to keep yourself safe. If it is some kind of romance thing, or even a Facebook meeting, and they profess love early on, like they're falling head over heels over you, they want to come and meet you, but yet they're not able to meet you in person. Or they may have some kind of reason, like, oh, my car broke down, or I have some kind of operation coming up, and to buy my plane ticket. Could you help me? Could you give me a credit card, some information, or maybe send me a gift card so I can help pay this off? Those are all red flags that you need to be aware of. And of course, one of the big key things is you friend somebody online, and then suddenly they're asking you to invest in cryptocurrency. That is a big red flag. Okay, so that's in a nutshell, how relationship scams work. Next slide. Identity theft. So as I mentioned, I was a victim of identity theft twice. And it was done not through online methods, but in person, where somebody took my credit card information and used it illegally. But basically, if you feel that you have been a victim of identity theft, or something's going on, and you maybe get an email from a bank that says, thank you for opening an account, you need to quickly act and freeze your credit. You can do this for free via any of the three credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. and it's for up to a year. You can even take out a credit freeze on your children if you have somebody under 18. Um, you can also get a free credit report once a year through annualcreditreport.com. Also, if you already use like a credit monitoring service, I currently have two credit monitoring services that I use for free. One is Experian and one is Crow Monitoring. And these were the result of actual companies being hacked, and then the companies offered us or all of the victims 3 years of free credit monitoring. So if you're on credit monitoring already, then that's a very, very good resource, because anytime anything happens on your credit file with your social security number, a credit inquiry, you will get an immediate email, and it's very, very timely, I'm finding. So something always good to have. You can, I think, sign up if you want to pay. They have pay for services. But if you have the free one, unfortunately, that probably means that your data has been hacked somehow. But that's another good way to protect yourself. Next slide. Gift cards. Everyone's heard of gift cards, right? These are the little plastic cards you can find at Long's or Safeway or at Home Depot. And it has sometimes a Visa card, MasterCard, could be an Apple card, could be a Home Depot card. And basically, you would take the card up to the cashier and ask them to load it up with up to $500. And then you can give them as gifts. So scammers have been using gift cards a lot. You may have heard of a local scam that the scammers were posing as Hawaiian Electric and calling customers and saying, you are 3 months behind on your electricity, and we're going to turn it off this week unless you pay $1,500. And then they would tell the potential victim to go to Long's and get three $500 Visa cards and call me back with the numbers, and then I can clear your account. And that's a scam, okay? Because first of all, that's an imposter scam. Hawaiian Electric is not going to call you to say, are you behind on your payment? And then two, the use of gift cards is another big red flag. Most legitimate businesses, government entities are not going to ask any of you to go to the store and get a gift card and call me back and use that as a method of payment. Next slide. So again, gift cards are virtually untraceable. Unlike credit cards, once you give somebody your gift card number and security code, it's like giving them cash. And no one's going to check. No one's going to know where it went. And even if you file a police report, you're probably never going to see that money compared to a credit card, right? So gift cards are used by scammers for that reason mainly. It's untraceable. You can move a lot of money without actually having physical bills. And then basically scammers are using you, the victim, as their mule. They're having you do the scam for them by going out and getting the gift card. So anytime you see any type of gift card requirement, you need to, step back and say, hey, this doesn't sound right, and don't fall for that. Next slide. So the ARP, we are trying our best to educate people about gift card scams. And actually, someone had told me recently in one of my talks that they were at Long's Drugs and they were almost going to be victimized. They were one of those that received a phone call and was going to Long's to get a gift card. And when they went to Long's and got to the cashier and they said, can you please load up these gift cards with $500 a piece? The cashier was smart enough to ask them, who are you sending this to? Is this for your granddaughter or grandson? And she said, no, 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 I have to pay this bill. And so they immediately called one of the managers. The manager pulled the lady on the side and explained to her how these gift card scams work. And they basically saved her from being a victim. So, that's a good positive story, but just know that that's happening out there. We're just trying our best to let people know anytime you see a gift card involved for payment, there's probably going to be a scam. Next slide. Other types of scams. So over my 30 years of working in investigations, I've come across a whole bunch of scams, starting with lottery scams way back in the earlier days when I was working with the state, and these would come on postcards. Now they come via email or maybe text message. I've worked affinity fraud scams, charity scams, even cryptocurrency scams. So my point of listing all of these scams is that there's just so many scams out there, and a lot of times people are overwhelmed by the news and they're like, oh no, there's another scam, and how do we know what's real and what's not? So I'm gonna be the first to tell you that you don't need to know all of the scams, and we're gonna get into the meat of the problem. uh we can go to the next slide. But essentially, um, what I'm going to try to impart with you today is that you're going to be the key. You are the key to protecting yourself, because, and we're going to show you a little video soon
I'm so
about
sorry.
oh
I
no,
screwed up. So
oh
just
no,
it's hardly baking, but
Well,
yeah,
I know.
no problem.
I'm treating myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. So again, I'll talk really quickly about QR code scams, because some people ask me, what's a QR code scams? So you all know what QR codes are, right? When you go to a restaurant now, you might be able to scan the little QR code, and then the menu will pop up on your phone, and you can order on your phone and even pay via your phone. So those are QR codes, and those are legit. If you're inside of a business or a restaurant and they have a QR code posted at the register or at your dining table, is going to be legit. What you want to watch out for is if you get an email containing a QR code, or maybe you're walking around at the mall and then there's on the wall, there's a flyer with a QR code. Those are the ones you need to be careful of, because these are direct links into their website. So basically, rather than sending you an email with a scam, they post a QR code and hope that people will go by and snap that shot, or open that link, and then they're going to go right into their website, which is going to be the scam website. So with QR codes, this even happened with Microsoft. And of course, it's not publicized a lot, but some guy hacked into Microsoft, sent an email to the employees saying that this is Microsoft security. And there was a QR code, and it said, we are updating your security profile. So click on the link and enter the information so we can update your account. And when people clicked on it, had everything: name, position, title, and then it had things like, what is your terminal, which station are you at? What is your current password and username? And then people were doing it, not thinking, because it looks like from an internal source. And there was just, luckily, one person was smart enough to call security and say, hey, did you just send out an email to everybody with this QR code? And they said no. And luckily, they were able to stop some. But the people that did have, that went through the steps and inputted their information, their computers were accessed by these hackers. And then they had to contain it and do, damage control. But these things can happen with technology now. Things like QR codes, very, very easy, very quick to just use your phone, access the code, and now you're direct, in contact with that scammer. Okay, so again, many more scams to come. We can go to the next slide. Some of you may have received text messages, random text messages, maybe showing a pet like the dog on the left with, bandages, and saying, sometimes the text would be very simple, like, my poor dog just got hit by a car. Have a photo. And what they're looking for is a dog lover out there who's going to say, oh no, I don't know who you are. Maybe you got the wrong number, but I'm so sorry about your dog. I love dogs too. And then they want to engage. And then they're going to say, oh, what's your name? What kind of dog do you have? And next thing you know, they're going to be trying to get your PII, or maybe get you to send them a gift card so they can help that poor doggy, get better. But these are pet scams, right? And they're very cute. So if you look at the cat on the right, that cat is asking for money too. Now, I don't know how familiar you guys are with artificial intelligence, but I can tell you that the photo on the right of the cat is something that I created using Google Gemini. I created that in about 3 minutes. I just entered a prompt saying, create an image of a cat asking for money. And that's what Google created, Google Gemini. And so the reason I have this up there is not only do we need to worry about scammers sending you actual photos or information about their pets to try to get you to feel bad. They might not even exist. These are maybe just digital creations that the computer created. So we need to be very diligent. Next slide. I talked about identity theft, right? Identity theft schemes. Now we're looking at digital scams. So synthetic identity fraud. This is something that is coming up. It may already be here. Some people may have already seen things like this, but basically AI is being used to create deep fakes. Can be videos, can be photos, can even be voice replication, right? So maybe about 10 years ago, it may have taken about 15 seconds for someone to record your voice in order to replicate it. Now it's down to 3 seconds. So say a scammer calls you on the phone and then you answer the phone and then they're recording you. And in the 3 seconds of you talking, even if they hung up, they could now replicate your voice and then try to do other schemes using your voice. That's how crazy this is. I'm not trying to scare you into not answering your phone calls, but I want to point out that things are going to be changing a lot. Synthetic fraud is going to be probably a big thing. And we've already heard some of it. I think there was some commercials. I don't know I think it was Tom Hanks. There are a few celebrities that had their videos faked. And they were talking as if it was them promoting a product, and it wasn't them, right? But it's hard to tell. And we're going to show you a little video real quick on what to think about or just keep in the back of your mind. Take a look at this.
In a stunning development, Canada has declared war on the United States. Let's go to Joe Braxton, who is live at the border.
I'm currently at the border, but there is no war. Mom, Dad, I know this looks kind of real, but it's all AI.
Grandpa, I'm fine. This is just AI. You don't need to wire money to anyone. I am not in love with you. And I do not need your money for a plane ticket. I am AI.
This fake moon landing footage isn't classified. It's AI.
You're probably wondering how I got rich with crypto. The truth is, I didn't get rich off crypto. I don't even exist.
You might be able to tell this is fake now, but it's gonna keep getting better.
We're all AI!
There could be aliens, but I'm not one of them. I'm AI.
An herbal supplement did not cure my cancer. I'm not even real.
Uncle Fred, the government has not been taken over by lizard people.
You don't need to send us $5,000 in gift cards because you missed jury duty.
Grandma, it's not real. It's AI.
It's AI.
It's AI.
Bro, it's AI.
Fake faces.
Real consequences.
Think before you trust.
I appreciate the message of this video.
Be real to me.
Okay, is that mind-blowing?
In a stunning...
Here's another a short video. We don't have to watch all of it, but maybe the first 30 seconds of it.
I broke into a zoo to prove one man is enough to fight a gorilla.
Welcome to the Chernobyl challenge. I'm gonna lick this glowing pole. Let's see how many views this gets.
No plan, no shoot, just content.
Bathing in liquid cement until it hardens. Let's get solid.
No energy drinks, just gasoline.
Okay, we can stop it here.
Digging to the Earth's core.
Thank you, Jackie. So the reason we wanted to show you these is that this is the extent that they've come as far as with AI. And these were all created via Google VO3. This AI software is available for use. You have to pay to use it, and it's quite expensive, but companies can use it. So what you're probably going to be seeing in the near future is AI made movies, even AI made music. So this is going to be game changers in terms of uh, how we perceive reality. Like, how will we know what is real? How will we know if that's a real person or a real song that someone actually played on a real instrument? And the answer is we don't know all of the answers. And a lot of think tanks that are not against AI, but they are cautioning the speed at which we're moving towards using AI. They all have the same concern, is that we may be moving too quickly. But as you know, there is a race to getting to the top spot in the AI world. Everybody's doing it. Google's doing it. Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, I believe, Tesla. Everybody's trying to get there. And so the question is, how is this going to impact all of us? And today I'm talking about fraud. So my concern is, how is it going to change our fraud landscape? How bad is it going to be where, we don't know what is real and what is not based on what we're hearing or seeing? So my point is, and as Jackie tries to get the slides going, I'm going to jump into our next section, which is about how to protect yourself. Okay, I'll talk about pig butchering real quick. Pig butchering is sort of a romance scam. It's also investment scam. It's also affinity fraud. This type of scam came out of East Asia by organized crime groups. And it's the idea of fattening your pig before you go in for the kill. So basically, these are people that are going to meet you online, maybe via Facebook or social media, and then they're going to try to get you to invest with them, which is why I said it's an investment scheme as well.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, Mia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Okay, so I wanted to touch base with you about Jamie.
Okay.
Somebody is not muted.
I got a response from her.
Yeah. I just had to get you off.
If you're talking to me,
Yeah.
Okay, are we good now? So basically, pig butchering is that you're going to try to get somebody to invest more and more money before you go in for the kill and basically take everything that they have. This happens a lot on Facebook. Unfortunately, it involves human trafficking, usually in the Eastern Asian countries. So instead of sex trafficking, they actually, take these young people and force them into like a boiler room situation where they do the calls or they do the emails to victims all around the globe. And the law enforcement estimates the losses to be about 75 billion over the last just 4 years alone. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to get into really talking about how to protect yourself. We can go to the next one. Sorry. I talked about business scams as well, but business scams and individual scams really overlap. And these are some of the points you need to be aware of. Anytime you receive an unsolicited phone call, text message, email, any kind of contact you have, if it's out of the blue, that's going to be a red flag, right? You need to be very careful. You need to stop and don't react. Don't act right away, and do not call the links or, click on the email links or call the numbers that they give you in those scam solicitations. If you get an email, check the email address. Look for little weird things in the address that may make you go, wait, this doesn't sound right. If you look at the second example, investment guru at FHB, sometimes people pose as bank investment advisors, and then they may message you. And it may look like a First Hawaiian Bank logo, but then when you look at their email and you look at that FHB 7253 and you think, wait, that's weird. So that's again that little voice telling you something's not right here. So look for little things like that. And if you are not sure, again, just like with a credit card scam or imposter scam, follow up with the real company. contact the person that you actually know in that company and say, hey, did you send me an email, or is your bank running some kind of promotion? Because I just got an email claiming to be from your bank. And then they'll tell you, no, that's not us. And then you know something's up. Next slide. Again, scrutinize your email. Sometimes there's a lot of typos or grammar errors in emails. This is going to be changing soon with AI, because now you can go to ChatGPT or Google Gemini and you can type in a prompt that says, I need to solicit somebody to invest in a tax-free investment offshore. Please create me an opening paragraph. And then they're going to create, in a minute or less, it's going to create a nice paragraph, grammatically correct most of the time, that you can just cut and paste into your scam email. So again, even with email, it's going to be harder to tell, is this real or not, right? So follow your instincts, trust your intuition. You're going to know when something doesn't smell right, or doesn't seem right. And always verify, right? Whether it's an individual or a business, always verify the source before you act, okay? Next slide. The red flags of all scams, obvious red flags are that, you're contacted out of the blue and it's going to invoke some kind of emotion. A lot of times it's fear. It could be HPD calling you that there's a warrant out for your arrest, or Hawaiian Electric calling you saying they're going to turn off your service. Those are the kind of things that make people panic in that instant and then immediately try to call that number or click on the link. And when you do contact them, they're going to ask for your PII or maybe request a payment. Okay, so the scams that are not so obvious, these are things that sometimes can take time, right? It may be somebody either with no clear connection to you, or maybe you are friends with them already, and then they appear to be similar to you, you have common interests, and then all of a sudden the conversation shifts to an investment, right? Or they ask for your personal information. Again, same thing. Those are going to be red flags, but these may not be so obvious because you may already trust that person. Next slide. So the key to remember is you don't have to know all of the scams, right? But you have to understand that you are the key to all of this. You're essentially the gatekeeper. The steps you take when you're first contacted will likely determine whether or not you're going to be a victim. Next slide. And for any scam, so this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a postcard, if it's a text message, if it's an AI spoof of a deepfake voice or something like that. The scammer's goal is always to get your money or your assets. And how they need, or what they need, is to get you to give them your PII, right? They need to access your money or your bank accounts. How they reach you, again, various methods, especially today. There's a whole bunch of ways to reach you now. And then the scam type will depend on you. They may tailor a scam towards you. If I'm creating a scam against maybe one of you, I'm going to think of something to do with the medical field. I'm going to come in with some kind of medical angle and then get one of you to trust me. And then I'm going to work from there to gain the rest of your, everyone else's trust to give me all your money. And then your goal basically is to not share that information. So it may seem like very, very simple, but sometimes it's hard to do depending on the method in which they contact you and whether or not they grab your attention and you start falling for their trap. But it is very simple in the sense that you are the key. So without you, without your PII, they can't do their scam, right? So if anything is impressed upon you today, I want you to remember that it doesn't matter what type of scam it is. The scammer's goal is the same. How the scam works is still going to be the same. And ultimately, you can shut it down by not engaging. That'll be my first recommendation. But if you do end up engaging with them, do not give them any PII or do not send them any credit card information, or do not go out and get gift cards for them. Next slide. Additional steps you can use, of course, strong passwords. You probably all know that. use multi-factor authentication, encrypt your devices, and stay current on what the fraud trends are. Kind of have an idea of what maybe new scams are coming up, because even though I said, you don't have to know everything that's going on out there in terms of new scams. Sometimes it's the new scams that take you by surprise, right? And you'd have to step back and go, wait, again, go back to what we talked about. If that little voice says, this doesn't sound right, then that could be a scam. Next slide. I'm trying to watch my time. I'm sorry, there's so much to talk about. If you are victimized, just know that law enforcement is always a step behind, right? The crooks always have a little better technology, they have better software, and they can move quickly. So law enforcement is always playing catch up. And AI is going to change the game even more. It's going to make it worse than it is right now. So you have to remain vigilant. And if you are victimized, you need to act quickly, preferably within 48 hours. That's kind of the time period that the FBI says is essential to even try to help you track where your money went. And as you heard when I talked about a friend of mine who got scammed in that Amazon scam, in half an hour's time, they were using her credit card in Spain. So these things happen so quickly. And of course, one of the key things is do not feel bad or embarrassed or shame. You need to get mad and you need to report these things. Next slide. So a lot of times when we see violent crimes on television, someone getting beaten up or someone getting stabbed or shot, we always feel empathy for the victim. We always feel like, oh my gosh, that's so horrible. But when we hear financial crimes, we hear about victims who lost 100,000 or 200,000 or their life savings. A lot of times we identify with the crook. We think, how could you fall for that scam? Or we might even praise the crook and say, well, that's a pretty creative scheme. So we need to change this method of thinking. Next slide. We want you to basically get mad. We want to change how victims view themselves. And rather than feel sorry or embarrassed or stupid, they need to get upset and get mad and want to let the people know that, hey, I got scammed by this guy and this is how bad it was. Next slide. So again, we want to say, this is not your fault, the victim. You're a victim of a crime. Okay, we need to get this reported to the law enforcement people. Next slide. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So potential real-world outcomes when people report crimes or more crimes, then there's more awareness, right? Family relationships and generational wealth will be protected. If you're a business, your business assets and your reputation is going to be protected. And then law enforcement takes fraud more seriously. When there's unfortunately more incidents, they have to take it more seriously. And then prosecutors will take on more cases. And then when prosecutors take on more cases, then usually policymakers will act and we may have tougher laws in these kinds of cases. And in fact, in Hawaii, under the state penal code, there is enhanced penalties for older victims. So if you're 62 and older, there are enhanced penalties. The federal law does not have it yet, but I do know that when federal criminals are sentenced in federal court, the judge does take into consideration the age of that victim. So if the victim is 62 and older, they will usually add a little more heft to that sentence. And then lastly, billions more money will stay in our economy, which is what we want. Next slide. So if you are victimized, you can contact our Fraud Watch Network helpline, the number there. You can report it to the FTC. You can call the FBI. They do have a white-collar crime division here. Or HPD, you can call 911 and have a beat officer come out. And then your case will probably be routed out to maybe the Financial Crimes Division. And then you can also file a complaint with the IC3, which again is run by the FBI. Again, the more information that is available to people, the more people report these crimes, then the more information that we have and that we can share with the public. Because really knowledge of what's going on and how to protect yourself is going to be the key going forward, because law enforcement is already inundated. So people have always asked me, what's the likelihood I lost $1,000? HPD is going to do something about it. And it's like, well, it's unlikely, but you never know. You might be part of a larger scheme that may involve a whole bunch of victims, and they may do something and catch the person. You may get your money back. But at the very least, by sharing your story or reporting your crime, you're actually going to be helping other people protect themselves. Okay, next slide. You can also check our website, aarp.org/fraud watch network. And if you go to this website, there's more information about what I've talked about today, more tips. And if you look at the upper left below, where it says about AARP Fraud Watch Network, there's a scam map link. And if you click on that scam map link, it'll pull up your current neighborhood's reports. So for Oahu, it'll show where on Oahu there are frauds happening and what type of fraud. And then you'll be surprised to see that a lot of the frauds we talked about are actually happening, like right now, here on Oahu, maybe as we speak, right? But it's really a very useful site if you have time to check it out. Next slide. And the AARP has partnered with Volunteers of America, and there is a program called REST, Resilience, Strength, and Time. And it provides 1 hour free virtual sessions. And you don't have to be an AARP member to use this service. So it's something that basically gives you a safe space to talk to somebody and hopefully lower your stress and maybe get some information about how to protect yourself. I'm going to open it up now to questions. If anyone has any questions about any of the topics we covered, or even something that was not covered, I'll do my best to answer. No questions?
Thank you, Kurt, for a very informative presentation. You can either unmute yourself or put questions in the chat that you might have for Kurt.
I hope I didn't shock everyone. I've been told sometimes, that now I'm paranoid to even answer my phone or respond to a text, but it's really not my purpose to make you afraid, but mostly to make you aware that these things are out there, and with AI, it's going to be even harder to tell. So you really need to understand the anatomy of that scam and why it's important for you to not kind of fall into their trap.
Kurt, this is Jackie. One thing I wanted to mention, because it wasn't on our slide, AARP Fraud Watch Network has a toll-free number that people who think they've been victimized by fraud can call, and they can talk to a trained volunteer 5 days a week until about 2 p.m. Hawaii time, just to find out if what they suspect has happened and where they should report it. So if you do visit the aarp.org Fraud Watch Network site, the toll-free number is right there on that website.
Thank you, Jackie. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we like to prevent, right, this from happening to our patients. So if we're evaluating patients for dementia and we want to tell the caregivers what to look out for, how to prevent it, is there like a video that they could just watch to like learn the stuff on their own time? Like they don't have to like wait for a session or something.
They can definitely go to the Fraud Watch Network website. There's tons of videos, short videos, but fraud is ever evolving, as you probably picked up from this presentation. So if they can get that core anatomy down that Kurt was mentioning, that's going to be their best bet. If it seems too good to be true, it usually is. And don't click on any unknown links or give your PPI out.
Yes, and I think, and Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, but on that Fraud Watch Network website, I think there's a lot of videos of each topic that I've covered today. And the reason we don't normally show them in the slide presentation is it will take a lot longer to go through everything. But yeah, that's a good resource. Thank you for asking that question.
I have a question. Hi, my name is Gabriel. I know I heard in your presentation a lot of ways that it seemed like you were trying to empower the audience and specifically older adults. in ways to identify things so that they can maintain independence and still avoid scam. And I wonder, because I know that a lot of these scams, they have spelling mistakes, they have other errors. There's ways that it sort of is a way of screening for people that would not otherwise, that are a little bit susceptible or gullible or wouldn't notice these things. So sort of cherry picking those among us that might be more vulnerable, things that you or I'd immediately say, oh, that's the spelling error is obviously this is a scam. And in that context, I just wonder what options do people have for maybe restricting their own access to money voluntarily, or other security measures they could do that are a little bit less than their family members or caregivers actively removing their autonomy?
That's a good question. I mean, I think, and I know, you mentioned like spelling errors and things like that, and that would get even more complicated with AI being used, which would eliminate a lot of those, right? But I think the key is, and I always tell people to like talk to, your family members too. So it's getting the whole family involved, I guess, is what I'm saying, in terms of getting their sons, their daughters, grandkids even to understand these things so they can help maybe their elders, not be victimized. I don't know, as far as like restricting funds and things like that, that would be more of a family
Yeah,
discussion.
you have to be super careful because this is fraud, but when it comes to elder exploitation and financial abuse, the number one perpetrator of those crimes is usually a male family member who's living with the older adults. It could be a son or a grandson. So I really hesitate to advise people to give over their autonomy when it comes to their finances, but maybe there's a way to, put some checks and balances in there. But you often see once somebody makes somebody a co-signer on their checking account, you see them having all their funds spent by someone else. So it's very, very challenging thing to advise people to do. So if they're mentally capable, then I think the best thing is to just teach them to spot and avoid fraud. And if they're not mentally capable, then hopefully they'll go through a legalized guardianship process where they have somebody who is court approved to access their finances. Because I think if you talk to the banks, you would find that a lot of times it's just not the best idea.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Gabriel.
So we're just about out of time. Thank you again, Kurt and Jackie, for this really informative presentation. I want to again remind everybody that you need to complete an evaluation form to get CME credits. John, if you could put the link in the chat. And I just want to again thank everyone for coming. We hope to see you next month.
Thank you, everybody.
Mahalo.
Take care and stay safe.
Take care.